The crimson sand of Kepler 442b stretched endlessly in every direction, broken only by the skeletal remains of ancient mining equipment that jutted from the ground like metallic bones. Zara's crystalline skin had lost its usual azure glow, now dim with exhaustion and pain. Beside her, Liz fought to keep her forearms steady as she examined the rusted steel jaws that had snapped shut around both their legs hours ago. "The metal's too corroded to cut through," Liz whispered, her voice barely audible above the howling wind. Her people, the Nexari, were known throughout the galaxy for their engineering prowess, but even her enhanced strength couldn't bend the ancient trap. "And the release mechanism. It's completely seized." Zara nodded weakly, her bioluminescent patches flickering like dying stars. The lumens were healers by nature, their bodies designed to mend and restore, but the trap's rusty teeth had torn deep into her leg, and infection was already setting in. Her regenerative abilities, so celebrated across civilized space, were failing against the primitive human-made device. "How long do you think it's been here?" Zara asked, running her fingers along the corroded metal. The craftsmanship was crude by galactic standards, no elegant plasma welding or molecular bonding, just simple steel plates riveted together with brute force efficiency. "Decades, maybe centuries," Liz replied. "The humans abandoned this mining colony before the Galactic Union even knew they existed, before they proved themselves worthy of membership." The irony wasn't lost on either of them. They were xenoarchaeologists, part of a prestigious expedition studying the remnants of humanity's early interstellar expansion. The academic community had initially dismissed human archaeological sites as primitive and unworthy of serious study, but recent discoveries had revealed a species that compensated for technological limitations with remarkable ingenuity and an almost supernatural ability to survive. Now they were experiencing that ingenuity firsthand, from the wrong end of it. "My environmental suit's power is down to 12%, Zara reported, checking the display on her wrist. "Yours?" 8%. Lisa's 4 hands worked frantically at the trap's mechanism, but every component had fused together with rust and time. "Even if we had full power, the communicator can't penetrate the mineral deposits in these hills. The shuttle crew won't expect us back for another 6 hours." They both knew what that meant. The toxic atmosphere would kill them long before rescue arrived. Zara leaned back against a broken support beam, her breath coming in shallow gasps. "You know what's fascinating? Human traps weren't designed to kill quickly. They were meant to hold prey until the hunter returned." "Cruel efficiency," Liz muttered, still struggling with the mechanism. "No," Zara said softly. "Think about it. Every other predator species we've studied relies on superior strength, speed, or natural weapons. Humans had none of those advantages. They had to be clever, patient. They had to think like their prey, understand their prey, become better than their prey." Liz paused in her efforts. "You're saying this trap represents something more than primitive technology?" "I'm saying it represents the core of what makes humans human. They take their limitations and turn them into strengths." A distant sound echoed across the wasteland, rhythmic, purposeful, growing closer. Both aliens froze, listening intently. Footsteps. Heavy boots on sand and stone. "Impossible," Liz breathed. "The colony has been dead for over a century." But the footsteps continued, accompanied now by a low humming, a human melody, simple and repetitive. The sound grew stronger until a figure crested the nearby ridge, silhouetted against the alien sunset. The human was tall and lean, wearing a patched environmental suit that looked like it had been cobbled together from spare parts. A wild beard, framed, weathered features, and eyes that had seen too much stared down at them with curiosity rather than surprise. "Well, I'll be damned," the human said, his voice crackling through an ancient comm unit. "Visitors?" Zara and Liz exchanged glances. This was impossible. The colony records clearly showed total evacuation over 150 years ago. The human approached their trap with the casual confidence of someone who knew these ruins intimately. He knelt beside the mechanism, pulling a multi-tool from his belt. Not the advanced plasma cutters the aliens were familiar with, but a simple collection of metal implements worn smooth by decades of use. "Name's Marcus," he said, working at the trap's release mechanism with steady, practiced movements. "Been living in the deep cave since my transport broke down about, 30 years ago now. Figured someone would come looking for me eventually, but you two aren't exactly what I was expecting." The trap's jaws groaned, then suddenly snapped open with a harsh metallic screech. Zara gasped in relief as circulation returned to her leg, while Liz stared at the human in amazement. "How did you—" "We tried everything. The mechanism was completely seized." Marcus held up his multi-tool, pointing to a small probe attachment. "Penetrating oil. Made it myself from some of the mineral deposits in cave system Delta 7. Sometimes the old ways work best." He helped both aliens to their feet, supporting them with surprising strength. "Besides, I designed half these traps myself, back when I was part of the original mining survey team." "But the evacuation records," Liz began, "said everyone left." "Yeah," Marcus smiled grimly. "Turns out I was in the deep caves when the evacuation order came through. Communication breakdown. By the time I made it back to the surface, the last transport was already gone." He shrugged. "So I adapted." As they made their way slowly across the wasteland toward Marcus's improvised shelter, Zara marveled at what she was witnessing. This single human had survived alone on a hostile world for 3 decades, using nothing but ingenuity and an apparent inability to give up. "Why didn't you try to signal for help?" she asked. Marcus laughed, a sound like grinding stone. "Who says I didn't? Built myself a dozen different transmitters over the years. Problem is, nobody was listening. The galaxy wrote off this whole sector after we left." He paused, looking back at them. "Until now, apparently." "We're xenoarchaeologists," Liz explained, "studying human expansion patterns. Archaeology, huh? Well, you found yourself a living specimen." Marcus's eyes twinkled with dark humor. "Hope I'm more interesting than those old mining rigs." As they reached his shelter, a marvel of jury-rigged engineering that had turned a natural cave system into a habitable environment, Zara realized something profound. Every other species in the galaxy had achieved interstellar travel through technological mastery or natural evolution. Humans had done it through sheer bloody-minded refusal to accept limitations. They didn't just survive in impossible conditions, they thrived in them. "Marcus," she said, as he helped them inside his remarkable home, "would you like a ride back to civilization?" The old human considered this for a long moment, then shook his head. "Nah, I've got a good thing going here. Besides," he grinned, "somebody's got to be around to help the next batch of archaeologists who get themselves caught in my old traps." That night, as they shared a meal of synthesized proteins and cave-grown vegetables, Zara and Liz understood why humanity had earned its place among the stars. It wasn't despite their limitations. It was because of how they transformed those limitations into strengths. In the morning, Marcus would guide them back to their shuttle, but the real discovery they'd made wasn't in the ruins of human technology. It was in the living example of human resilience sitting across from them, humming that same simple melody he'd carried alone for 30 years.